Aloha everyone, and welcome to another Carbon 60 video by me, Kay Elmer. And this video, I'd just like to take a look at C60 a year in review, market trends, pricing, and some of the new studies that have come out in the last 12 months. So figured you might be interested in this if you're taking C60, and let's jump right in. So real quick disclaimers. I just want to stipulate I have no affiliation with any C60 company. Don't own anything, don't sell anything, that sort of thing. And again, I just want to remind everybody, whenever I'm talking about C60, that C60 is, as a supplement, is still very experimental. It's not been approved by the FDA or EFSA. And at the end of the day, just remember, if you're taking C60, you are the human trial. And until some of those get published, we really don't know. So keep that in mind. It's still experimental. All right, so let's jump right in. Hey, over the last year and even over the last 5 years, taking a look at the Google Trends for people searching on C60, it really has not changed. It's sort of like if you did a logarithmic, analysis of the trend line here in terms of people typing in C60 in Google to try to find out, obviously search on it, it's going to be flat. So literally over the last 5 years, since it kind of got popular back at the end of 2017, it became a little bit more popular. Well, actually a lot more popular than it was. But since 2017, there really hasn't been, other than that initial spike at the very beginning at the end of 2017, early 2018, there hasn't really been a whole lot more interest in it. And in retrospect, when you try to take a look at, if you're one of the individuals who sells C60, or you're adamant that it's such a great anti-aging biohack, the supplement to take, you take a look at it and you go, well, why hasn't it been growing other than that first spurt? And really, if you just kind of search on YouTube, and this is my opinion, but it's just not a lot of promotion. You've got Chris from SES, you've got Ken from Purple Power, and you've got Ian from Wizard Science, and those are the three main guys that are out there, producing C60 and putting the word out about how great C60 is. But they're just not reaching the audience that they need to get to. So it is really kind of interesting in that regard. But yeah, it's flatlined. There really isn't much going on. You take a look at the top, just for the U.S., you take a look at the top, 5 states that are doing, where the searches are coming from. And it is real interesting that the highest number, the top 5 states that are people in those states are actually Googling for C60. Number 1 is North Dakota, Kansas, Iowa. So it is interesting, that there's this audience in the Midwest that's way more interested in C60 than the liberal coast. So, it is kind of interesting, but that's the trend. It's just not growing. And until, if you're out there and you're one of the producers, until you guys really need to reach a much bigger audience, get with the health influencers, maybe even advertise. I know it's expensive, but yeah, it's just, and of course the competition's really, really, really high. Literally every single month there's this new, really cool new supplement to take. And so someone like myself, I'm a biohacker. I'm always looking for what's the next best, greatest thing. 660 is literally a 5-year-old thing that I started, but I really believe in it, and I've taken it ever since. But it's kind of like the competition for attention as to supplements. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. There's a ton of noise. How do you get heard over that noise? And so whatever you're doing right now, it's not really moving the dial. That's my point. Anyway, moving right along. So let's take a look at the prices. I just did a quick scan. For those of you who may remember, a couple years back, I was doing an annual price guide. I started in the very beginning. In 2017, the price guide was only, I think it was like 7 or 9 different companies in the world were selling C60 oil for people who wanted to take it as a supplement. And now, I'm sure by now there's well over 50 more worldwide, probably 100 or something. So it just blew up in terms of the number of people producing C60 oil for health. But anyway, I went back a year ago, grabbed just the top of the list, over here on the retail side, and just said, hey, in 2021, what were their prices, and then now in 2023, what's changed? So from a standpoint of, has inflation hit the C60 market? I guess that's the question. In red, you'll see where the prices went up over here on the retail side. For the most part, though, you take a look at the 11 the top 11 that I grabbed off the list, the top 11, only 4 of them had increased their prices. So that's, way less than half. So, so that's kind of an interesting thing, like C60 retail wise, inflation hasn't really hit it that hard. Some places have increased their prices, but most places have not. So there you go on the retail side. It's kind of like, stabilized. What's interesting though, when you look at the wholesale price of buying C60 powder to make C60 oil, and by the way, I'm just going by 1 gram. Okay, so if, obviously if you're making C60, you're buying it literally by the pound or the kilo, and you're buying it in bulk, and you're going to get it a lot cheaper. But this is the average Joe wants to go buy a gram and make some C60 oil at home price, right? And so for 1 gram, you look at the prices, and I just grabbed the top of the list. There's 9 of those producers out there, and the red stipulates the prices went down. So that was really, and honestly, if you go to Bucky Labs right now, and you might, if you're interested, if you buy from Bucky Labs and you go to right now and you look at the 99.95, it's the same as 99. I don't know if that's a website glitch or not, but the price went from 230 to 185 now for 99.95% C60. MTR has dropped their price. I think they're having like a sale based on the price guide that they've got out there, but it's definitely special pricing. They do mention that. So right now, this is March 11, 2023. The price for 1 gram of 99.95 has dropped down from 109 to 93. So there you go there. But, again, just like the retail side and the wholesale side, not so much pronounced. But I just want to point out, and I always do whenever I do a price guide, that you've got a company out there producing 100 milliliters of C60 oil in olive oil. I know that they use Kirkland olive oil. I don't know where they source their C60 from, but they're selling it for like $25 for 100 milliliters. And then, people do different bottles, right? So some people have 100 milliliter bottles, some people have 4-ounce bottles, but they're kind of the same. Let's not, I don't want to get into semantics, but bottom line though, you look at, like, let's say Carbon 60 Plus sells a 4-ounce bottle for $27, and then you've got Live Longer Labs out there, and even C60 Power selling it for $100 to $117 for the same product, 4 ounces of C60 oil. Now, they all claim that they do special stuff to it, and etc. But I just want, there's a huge price swing from the retail side. So, if you're the person who doesn't want to go through the, the effort of making your own, no problem there. Do what you want to do. Just realize that there are some serious price differences in the retail market, and you really could save yourself a lot if you just shop around, or you may be paying 4 times more than what you really need to. Okay, so keep that in mind. And the other thing too, on the wholesale side, the spread is not that wide. With MTR doing this special thing right now, they're pretty much the lowest per gram. And then of course you've got, Layla Labs is selling at wholesale to the Telegram group, so they're selling at $122.50 per gram, and it really doesn't get any closer to that number. Alibaba, I just throw this on the list. It's $120. I personally never buy anything that's sourced from China, so I do like Layla Labs. It's sourced from Soleus, and even Soleus, if you were to buy at their price, it's $149. So definitely can get a really good deal if you come into the C60 Telegram chat group. And buy from Layla, or of course there's MTR as well. Again, MTR, I don't know where they source from, and I just, in my opinion, if they source from SES or they source from Solaris, right, which are the 2 biggest manufacturers, they would brag about it, because those are like the highest quality C60 producers in North America. I know that Bucky sources from SES, and Pure C60 olive oil sources from SES. So, everybody, if you're buying from SES or you're buying from Solaris, you're going to brag about it. You're going to mention it on your website. MTR does not mention that on the website, so I don't know where they get it from. So there you go. Anyway, so that's the price guide. Inflation, a little bit of inflation on the retail side, wild price swings on the retail side. Wholesale side, not so much wild price swings, but but affordability is still there, right? I personally buy from Layla Labs. I love supporting them because they support our community on Telegram, so I'm very loyal, and that's why I'm loyal. They came in and they replaced our old co-op that we used to have. So yeah, and still at $122.50 a gram from Layla Labs, you're producing a liter of C60 oil every single, and a liter will last you 3 months. So try to imagine how cheap that is to make your own. It's literally less than half of what it would cost to buy it. And that's buying it at a cheaper, buying it at this price here, it's still half of that, if you make your own. Anyway, I think I said enough about that. All right, so let's get into the studies. Now, this is where it gets really cool, and I'm really glad, and I had to kind of do a deep dive. I mean, like literally go page by page by page by page on Google Scholar to find anything, because there's the bulk of the C60 studies is using C60 in industry, okay, and that's where it came from. They've been using C60 in industry since it was discovered back in, I forget, like 1991 or something. So it's an industrial lubricant, and that's now discovered that, hey, it has health benefits, right? And that was discovered when that 2012 rat study came out. So what's cool, though, is that there are studies about C60 in regards to health, and it's not 100% industrial. And so this is the cool part. So I did find 5 studies that I want to share with you. And I think from my scouring of the internet, it's pretty much the only studies that were done last year. But they're all very promising. I mean, the very first one's called Wound Healing Activity of Aqueous Dispersion of Fullerene 660 produced by Green Technology. All right, what did they do? They basically they basically cut a mouse and gave him a wound, poor little guy. And then they basically treated that mouse with C60 topically. This was the solution that the C60 was suspended in. But at the end of the day, as you can see from these little pictures from the report, and here's the statement out of the abstract for this study: the ability of the AFD to exhibit regenerative activity was studied using the animal wound model. This study shows for the first time that the fullerene-based composition stimulates the healing of wounds of various origins. So there you go. C60 is good for wounds. And in the Telegram chat group, it's been commented before that people have taken their regular old C60 oil that they ingest and put it on wounds, and it actually does help. So this is just a study that validates that, but it's kind of a pretty interesting application for C60 if you haven't considered it before. By the way, all of the studies I'll be talking about, the links will be in the video description. You can pop over and read the whole study yourself. Okay. Next study is called In Vivo, In Vitro, and In Silico Anticancer Investigation of Fullerene C60 on DMBA-induced breast cancer in rats. So what these guys did was, they basically got, I think it was Wilstar rats, which are genetically predisposed for cancers. And so they basically got some Wilstar rats, which are lab certified lab quality rats, for their study that developed cancers. And then they treated them with Fullerene C60. The results from the abstract stipulate Fullerene C60 decreases breast cancer by decreasing MDA level, increases GSH level and catalyst activity, and thus it protects breast tissue against cancer. So this is very important, especially if you're a mouse, right? That taking C60 is preventative. And that's my opinion based on the study. But, if it works for mice, right, that's, anyway, I'm just going to leave it there. Very sensitive subject. But, hey, I take C60 for all the other, for the antioxidant and antitoxin and anti-radiation perspectives. I never really considered it to be also anti-cancer. So that's pretty cool. Next study over the last year is one called Fullerene C60 Attenuates Heart Tissue Inflammation by Modulating COX-2 and TNF-Alpha signaling pathways in DMBA-induced breast cancer in rats. So I just want to tell you, I'm an armchair scientist. I do not know what half of these acronyms mean. I try to read these reports. And this one's particularly, this was like reading stereo instructions in a language using a translation application on my phone with a bad battery. It was really, really hard to read. But, I kind of ferreted out like, okay, well, what did you do? And basically, they got rats that are, predisposed to breast cancer, and also then gave them some kind of poison. And then they gave them C60 to see what the C60 would do to these little rats that had to deal with this poison. And so what happened was that this is actually right out of the study. Fullerene C60 nanoparticle may be promising and effective therapy for the treatment of heart diseases associated with inflammation. right? So that's what they discovered, and that was their finding from the study. And and that's something that it's kind of like normal. I mean, that's a very normal finding. It's great to see that they did a study, but all of the earlier studies showed, because C60 is such an incredible antioxidant, it'll go in there and sponge up and scavenge all your free radicals, right? And free radicals is what's causing inflammation in your body. So of course it grows to figure that hey, C60 will reduce the inflammation. And then in this particular study, they studied the heart, and so it definitely would help with reducing inflammation in heart tissue. So that's really great. So people with heart problems, this might be helpful. Opinion again, not fact. All right. Next study that has come up in the last year is another new one, called C60 Fullerene Attenuates Muscle Force Reduction in a Rat During Fatigue Development. Okay, so this one basically, I think they made the little rats run a treadmill. I'm joking. Sorry. But bottom line is that they forced rats into a stress situation to look at how C60 would help their muscle. And so here's the finding is in the study: the obtained results indicate that the prospect of using C60 as a potential protective nanoagent to improve the efficiency of skeletal muscle function by modifying the reactive oxygen species dependent mechanisms that play an important role in the process of muscle fatigue development. Okay, so now they've proven this in rats. And what does that mean? Is it helps you recover from strenuous workouts. And you know what? There's a ton of biohacking athletes that already know that, and that's why they take C60. It is if you are a person who works out in a gym and you've got your objectives and it's no pain, no gain, well, you can kind of get that pain go away by taking C60. It actually helps because it just sponges up all that free radical stuff. It reduces inflammation, and it helps you recover from muscle fatigue much better than if you didn't take C60. So that's pretty cool, right? That there's a study now that says that, but we've known that, athletes have known that for quite a while, those who take C60. So the next one here I want to kind of share with you is called Effect of C60 Fullerene on Recovery of Muscle Soleus in Rats After Atrophy Induced by Achillotenotomy. Okay. Sorry. The findings on this one was essentially they did something to these poor little guys and caused them to have muscle atrophy. That's when your muscles shrink down from lack of usage. If you've ever broke a leg or arm, you'll know what happens to your muscles, right? So then, of course, they treated them with C60. And so these rats, the findings of this study was the obtained results indicate a promising prospect for C60 fullerene used as a powerful antioxidant for reducing and correcting pathological conditions of the muscular system arising from skeletal muscle atrophy. So yes, it did help the rats recover from atrophy. So, these are the five. The last one here is not necessarily a C60, but I think it's wild. I ran across it while doing this research, and I wanted to share it with you because it's a derivative of C60. But, the five I've kind of just shared with you, I really just want to just reiterate is, how cool that we've got these studies coming out now, and they're basically reinforcing what the community has experienced. But now that there's studies that then reinforce that, hey, yeah, that's really going to happen. So we're talking about C60 is good for wound healing. It's good for breast cancer. It's good for heart problems. It's good for recovering from workouts. And it's also good from recovering from atrophy. So you know what? I think this is a really good thing for C60. I'm glad that these studies are continuing to be done. And it's continually reinforcing, the folks that made that decision to become part of the human trial. I find it encouraging. There you go. So the last study now, and this is a Fullerene. This is not C60. Whenever you see the phrase water-soluble C60, that means it's not C60. It is called a Fullerene, and a Fullerene is a C60 molecule with oxygen-hydrogen atoms stuck to it, okay, which if you add an extra atom, it changes the molecule, and it becomes a different thing, and that different thing is called a Fullerene. Okay, and so there are some people out there who have developed products with Fullerenes, and they're making this, kind of like fuzzy line, with, calling it like X C60, but, it's not C60. I did a whole video about this last year, but anyway, I digress. So here's the study, though, and I think it's really cool because now it's kind of got me interested, like, Fullerenes. But water-soluble Alanine-Modified Fullerene C60 promotes the proliferation and neural differentiation of neural stem cells. So, because I'm doing this stem cell project right now, and I'm like, wow, that really perked my interest. So that's pretty cool. So they've taken fullerenes and they've basically did a study on how fullerenes affect stem cell generation, right? Neural stem cells. And the findings strongly indicate that the ALA, which stands for Alanine-Modified, Fullerene C60, has high potential to be applied as a scaffold with NSCs for regeneration in nerve tissue engineering for diseases related to the nervous system. So that is really cool, because you know what's a nervous, you know what a disease for related nervous systems in your head is? Yeah, it's things like dementia and Alzheimer's. Isn't that one of the biggest, epidemics of our generation? Our in Hawaii we call them our kupuna, our elders, right? And it's just so devastatingly, heartbreaking to watch our elders diminish in such mental capacity. And here is something that's coming along saying, hey, C60 or a derivative of C60, is most likely helpful for that. And just off the bat, C60 by itself has been found to help quite a few elders regain their faculties. And there are several testimonies out there. No human trials. Again, there's no human studies. But those have been some of the testimonials coming out that C60 just by itself is very helpful for neurodegenerative types of issues for people. And then here's a study now that's come out about that from a lab standpoint. So it's encouraging. Again, it's just one more. I think it's one more data point, for the concept of, hey, C60 good or bad, right? Anyway, so that's that. So I just want to say thank you. That's my C60 a year in review. I wanted to just share with you what my findings are. And I do once a year kind of go back to C60. It's kind of how I started my YouTube channel, which is all about C60 back then. But you just kind of run out of stuff to talk about. So, I'll try to keep doing it once a year just to kind of say, hey, where are we? What's been going on? I hope you found this informative and helpful. If you have any questions, hey, you know what? We still got our C60 chat group on Telegram. It's been going all these years. It's still there. Link below in the video description. If you got any questions about C60, how to make C60, come on down. I'll be more than happy to chat with you and answer your questions on Telegram. So thank you for your time today. I hope you found this informative, and you know what? Have a great day. Aloha.